My name is Mollie Sommer. Welcome to my podcast. I believe that we are all inherently seeking to express ourselves, and that our voice is the connector that brings us all together. This podcast is my way of sharing that power of connection, bringing us together to learn, grow, laugh, and be the best versions of ourselves. Each week, I will share my stories and lessons around spirituality, energy, manifestation, money, mindset, and of course, business. Along the way, there will also be some amazing guests to uplift and inspire you to live your life full out, to embrace your gifts, and to celebrate your uniqueness, reminding you that you are never alone. So sit back, bring your hands and feet inside the car, and enjoy the ride. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Mollie Sommer Show, and welcome back to the Mollie Sommer Show. It's been a minute, and before we dive into this week's show, I want to just share a little bit of an update as to why I took a step back and why I'm really excited to be back. So as always, bring your hands and feet inside the car, and I really hope you enjoy this ride today as we dive in to how to make the winter solstice a sacred and really yummy event. So I thought I would start off this week's show with a little bit of a personal update because I've taken some time off from podcasting and being in the forward-facing limelight of creating content. And this started in October, I guess, when things started to feel heavy, started to feel like I was putting out more energy than I was receiving back, and I was allowing back in. And a few things came together to have this happen in my life. I was burning the candle at both ends. I was putting out a lot of content. I was doing a lot in my business. I wasn't resting enough. I wasn't giving myself the self-care that I normally do because I was very much in just this really exciting flow and really focused on the doing part of manifestation. And of course, when this happens, as a woman who has a lot of feminine energy, I was out of balance. I was out of that give and take, that yin and yang, and it burnt me out. As well as all of that happening, I had some family deaths that impacted me more than I thought they would. And that was a little bit of a death in my own self that I went through. And it was really hard because I resisted it. I resisted listening. And my ego was holding on to something that wasn't serving me. And in manifestation, we talk about the vision. We talk about really focusing and really envisioning what it is we want to create. And so I was really, I'll say stuck, but that's not really the right word. I was really dedicated to that process, doing it every single day, showing up for myself, showing up and sharing what I'm passionate about. But part of manifesting that we don't talk enough about is just being. It's in the stillness. It's in the allowing for the universe to weave together. And you see this a lot in our society. We glorify the action. Just last night, I was on TikTok and there was a year end for GoPro. And they were highlighting all the best GoPro videos over the last year, and they were all action shots. Not a single one of the shots was of people spending time together or resting and sharing a cup of coffee. It was all doing, it was all chasing that adrenaline, the ecstasy. And we really need to remember that part of the process is in the letting go of the outcome. It is in the being and the resting. And so I was kind of caught up in that cycle of doing. And in getting caught up in that cycle, a lot of things started to fall apart. Kind of just had the image of the rickety old car. Not that I'm saying I'm old, but the rickety old car that's going too fast, and the springs start popping off, and then a tire flies off in one direction, and soon enough you're just sitting there with the steering wheel. This is my brain, my friends. But it's kind of how I feel like the last couple months have been. And so now I am in this place where I'm bringing back together the parts, and also the path before me has changed. And I've let go of some things that were no longer serving me and were no longer going to be a part of the path forward. And in my life, I love the slow movement. My favorite thing to do while floating is to just paddleboard down a river lazily. I used to love adrenaline. I used to chase adrenaline. I've skydived, I've bungee jumped, I've done all of those things. But now I'm in this time of my life where I like the slow. I like the intentional building of the embodiment of it. And I guess in the falling apart, the universe has shown me or reminded me that it's not about the destination. It's about enjoying the day-to-day building and creating and getting to that place. And maybe this is a great time to share a vision that I had at the beginning of the year. I thought about maybe sharing this, but I wasn't sure if I was going to share this with you. And I think this is where I got into a lot of my resistance came from holding on to what I interpreted this vision as being. And so every year at Christmas, as New Year's comes, I put together a ritual for myself. And it's part of my winter process. Because as we come into this time of the year, especially here in the Northern Hemisphere, our days get shorter and shorter until the winter solstice, where it's the shortest day of the year, the greatest amount of darkness. And so for me, the winter solstice is all about no longer seeking the light outside of myself, because there's not a lot of it and it's short, but turning inward and cultivating or stoking the fire, the light that's within myself. And so I do a lot of burning. I have a fireplace in my house. I'm very blessed for that. And I light a lot of fires, and I sit in front of the fire and I do breath work, and I do meditation and embodiment work and cultivating that energy that is we all have within myself. And so last year on New Year's Eve, I did this ritual, and whoo, I had the most incredible vision of the year ahead. It started out, I was in this beautiful forest, and it was green, and the big trees were around me, and there was this beautiful mountain. And suddenly there were these women there with me, women of all ethnic backgrounds with flowing hair, and I knew I was surrounded by my sisters. And there was an elk and a bear and a cougar there with me as well. And as I was interacting with these elements of this vision, a fire started in the forest, and the forest started burning. I might get a little emotional with this because this part of the vision came to fruition this year. And while the forest was burning, it was very much this feeling of conflict happening. And the fire was raging around us, and the women and the sisters and the elk and the bear were fighting this fire. And suddenly, the mountain opened up and took everything into it. The earth took everything into it. And it was just this massive ball of clashing, everything coming together. And I felt very trapped. I felt very restricted. And I felt very afraid. And I remember lying there, both very much in the vision and very much aware of being in my body at the same time. And I remember thinking, if I want to get out of this, I have to surrender. I have to release the tension in my body and soften. And so as I did that in this vision, I let it all go, and the mountain opened up and released me. And I kind of like liquid went down the mountain and ended up in this cold river. And then I began to flow in the water. And I flowed all the way out to the ocean. And then this whale was there, because that's where whales are. And the whale guided me to this island of abundance. And it was lush and green and beautiful. And I remember coming to this place and just feeling the love, feeling the excitement and the freshness, the abundance of life. And it was so joyful. I was so excited and so relieved to be in that place. And the abundance was just evident everywhere. And so that was my vision that I started the year off with. And so as I started manifesting my year, I knew what was coming. Metaphorically, of course. And at the same time, I was experiencing so much contrast to what I was expecting. And I had become attached to the idea or the meaning of my vision. And so when things weren't seemingly manifesting in the way that I, the ego, the human part of me, wanted, it was difficult. There was resistance. I tried to force things. And these are all the mistakes, the learnings of my year. To come back into the flow, to remember that we don't always know what the next phase or the next part of the river, the flow of our life is. But the universe, source, always wants us to have the path of least resistance. That's what nature does. The water, a river, doesn't come up against a blockage and get angry. It finds the easiest ways to move forward. And it always reaches the ocean. It always flows into where it was always going. But when we hold on to what we perceive as the path, we come into those times in our lives that are painful. We create our own suffering. And it is in the surrender, it is in bringing the body back into that place of letting go, into that place of feeling safe, feeling protected, feeling taken care of, that we can then flow and move with less resistance and allow the universe to come and give us exactly what we need. And so that was a long, that was a long story to tell you why I've taken a step back, because I needed that time to heal my nervous system, to let go of what I perceived as the quote unquote right way of moving myself forward towards the greater vision, and to allow the universe to come back in and meet me where I was. And so a lot of things have changed, and a lot of things are changing. But I have come back into this place where I am no longer attached to how I get to the ocean. I know I will get to the ocean. I've come back into a place where I'm back in that sweet surrender and joyful floating that I love so much. And I've come back into that place where I feel the building of the ecstasy that makes every day exciting and pleasurable and joyful and just a unique surprise every single day. And that feels so much better. So that now that I am back in that place, I have more to give you again. I can come back here and be the open channel that I am. I can come back here and share with you, share for you, share with you, so that I come from a place of overflowing. And instead of depleting myself, I release it without expectation. And that, my friend, is how we manifest from joy. So, what's next? I wanted to share with you today the winter solstice ritual that I do to really come back and cultivate the light and the fire within me. Kind of like planting new seeds in the darkness, so that when spring comes, the seeds have not only germinated to grow, but they've also been really nourished in the soil, in the darkness, so that there's no fighting, but it feels natural. There's no rushing. There's no jumping from where you are to the harvest. It's just a knowing that the energy that you're putting in is growing. So part of this ritual of going within is looking at the past, looking at the year, and looking at what seeds I've planted, what ideas that I've started that haven't produced the results that I wanted. Looking at that and asking, what is it or what was it about those ideas that didn't create the next step? And then also looking at the ideas and the seeds that I planted that did create the next step. And looking at what it was that separated those two. So that with that reflection, you can then not only see the contrast, because that's very important, knowing what you don't want, so that you can clarify what you do want. Then clarifying what it is that I want to take forward. What it is that brought me the most joy. What it is that excites me. What new skills have I learned that I can bring forward? What new ways of being have I integrated into habits and beliefs? And getting really clear and intentional about what it is that I want to plant for the next year. There are times when it feels like you're just burning everything down. And that can be really scary and disorienting. But if you think of a phoenix, if you think of fire, even in that death, there is always rebirth. When I shared my vision of the story of what I experienced at the beginning of the year, I said the forest literally burnt down this year. And already there's greenery happening. Already the earth is opening up and new sprigs of life are shooting forward. And so it is within the death, the aftermath of that ending, there's new opportunity for life. And so we have to intentionally go through and kind of clear out that space within us so that we can invite more love, invite more compassion, invite more presence into our energy, into our body, so that it expands, so that we then shine from within. And we give from that place of fullness. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, I love, like I said, fire. And if you don't have a fireplace, that's totally okay. You can light a candle and meditate on the light of that candle. You can sit in front of a fire outside, wrap yourself up in a nice warm blanket and watch the flames. And just let the light of that fire and the energy of that fire come through you. Feel that fire, that warmth inside the body. Feel that fire in your belly with the excitement of something new. Feel that fire in your stomach with that passion and confidence of whatever it is you want to create. Feel that warmth in your heart for the love that just fuels you to move forward. And allow that energy to really just like tingle all over your body. This is the process of embodiment. Next, I like to write down those ideas that come forth from this process, whatever they are. Last year, I kept hearing the words dharma and direction. Dharma and direction. I kept hearing wealth. These were the visions and the words that I was receiving through this process. And so I would write them down and I would just let the flow of consciousness happen without resistance. And then from there, it's a process of letting it go, kind of like you do with a seed, tucking it into the dirt, tucking it into the darkness. You can burn the paper if you want, or you can crumple it up or put it away and let it germinate. You've nourished the soil. You've done the hoeing of the soil. I'm going back to this gardening. I've got so many metaphors happening today. This is the way it happens sometimes. But you've done that work. When you're planting new seeds in a garden, you don't put them in the ground and then open the soil and check them all the time. You don't have to do that with the universe either. It's natural. Your ideas, the universe, they know what to do. The energy knows what to do. You don't have to force anything. It begins to grow on its own. And as you let it go, as you allow it to attract what you need to attract, as you allow the universe to do the weaving and to rise up to you and come to you, it begins to stir. And the next step is given to you. The next hint is offered. The next synchronicity comes your way. The next person reaches out to you, or you meet the person you need to meet in the coffee shop. And then from there, all you have to do is say yes. Take the next step. Take the next step and honor yourself, honor your unique flow, and enjoy the ride. So, my friend, I hope you give yourself time to reflect on this year. And it's been hard for a lot of people. So I want to let you know that you're not alone if you have struggled this year. You're not alone if things haven't worked out the way you thought they would work out. You're not alone if you've experienced fear and scarcity and uncertainty. You're not alone. Giving yourself time to reflect allows you to see the bigger picture, to notice maybe the results weren't what you expected, but maybe the results were exactly what you needed. And so maybe the struggle, maybe the pain, maybe the lessons give you something that is unexpected and exactly what you've always wanted. So see it from a perspective, or I invite you to see it from a perspective of the universe loves you and wants to give you exactly what you need in order to grow, exactly what you need in order to step into your soul's alignment and purpose. And that is such a gift, even when it sucks. To come back and be able to look at the journey and say, yeah, it was really hard. Yeah, it was not what I expected. But boy, it made me who I am today. And I'm grateful for that. So have a beautiful winter solstice. Have a happy holiday season. And we'll see you in 2024. Bye, everybody.